In honor of Black History Month, we're going to talk about 3 influential Black poets throughout American history, and we're going to talk about the virtues that they stood for on which freedom is built. I'm Chad Garrett, and this is The Chad Garrett Show. Three poets, 40-ish minutes. We're going to be flying through content because I want to get to 4 full poems for you. Some of them are shorter than others, but if we don't get started, we're not going to have time. Thank you so much for being here with me. This is going to be so much fun. Let's do this. Our first poet that I want to talk to you about is a woman by the name of Phillis Wheatley. Now, Phillis was brought to America when she was only 8 years old from West Africa. She was sold into slavery to the Wheatley family, where they, over the course of 16 months, taught her how to read the Bible, which at the time would have been the King James Version, so no small task. Also, she was taught how to read a bunch of different British literature. She was also taught how to read in Greek and in Latin, and she was also a studier of both geography and astronomy. This alone makes this woman one of the most intelligent figures in human history, I think. And if not human history, definitely American history. And the 2 things that make her the most influential out of the 3 that we're going to talk about, in my opinion, is the fact that she was the first Black poet in America and the second female poet in America. That's right. There were no other female poets besides Anne Bradstreet that predated Phillis Wheatley. That's going to come into play a lot later when we talk about the opportunity and when we talk about our third poet and our third poem. I want to keep it a little bit of a secret for you, make you stick around, but I want you to cling to that fact that even back then, this is 1760, 1770, right? This is right in the time of the Revolutionary War. And as a matter of fact, Phillis Wheatley was a huge supporter of George Washington. She was even a massive supporter of the colonists. She was a huge advocate for the Revolution. And she was noted for saying that the only thing that really kept the colonists from being true heroes, from being elevated to this heroic status for all eternity, was the sin of slavery. And yet she was still given an opportunity as a slave. So cling to that. We're going to come back to that. The opportunity that was given even for those that seem, when we look back, it looks like they don't have any opportunity. She was also heavily influenced by her faith. And so in order to capture the virtues that Phillis Wheatley stood for, I want to read for you one of her first poems that she ever wrote. And then I want to read to you a short snippet that was published on poets.org. by Camille T. Dungy, and I want to read that because I think it's really important. So first, we're going to read her poem. The poem is called On Being Brought from Africa to America. If you want to pause and Google that and catch up with us, you can follow along that way, or you can read with or listen along with me. 'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, taught my benighted soul to understand that there's a God, that there's a Savior too. Once I redemption neither sought nor knew, some view our sable race with scornful eye, their color is a diabolic dye. Remember, Christians, Negroes, black as Cain, may be refined and join the angelic train. I'm going to read it again for you because it's short and it has a little bit of punch, and I want you to take some time to absorb this. There's an element of gratitude, an element of recognizing the good, and there is also a heart of rebellion against that which is evil, and I want you to get that. It's so short, and it's so easily missed, but I want you to get that. 'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, taught my benighted soul to understand that there's a God, that there's a Savior too. Once I redemption neither sought nor knew. Some view our sable race with scornful eye. Their color is a diabolic dye. Remember, Christians, Negroes, black as Cain, may be refined and joineth angelic train. We're going to break that down here in just a second, but I want to read to you Camille T. Dungy's analysis of this that they had on poets.org. This neoclassical poem, written by an enslaved young woman barely out of her teens, is rebellious even as it appears to follow all the rules. It is about the complicated blessing of being kidnapped from her home and sold into slavery in a land where she was able to learn about the order and structure of Western traditions, including Christianity. And it has at its heart words, phrases, and lines that can be read completely logically in a number of ways. At every turn, she undermines and complicates the logic to which she is bound. There are two main virtues that I mentioned as I read it, right before I read it the second time, and I want to really cling to these two virtues, and I want you to keep them in the back of your mind. Write them down if you can. The first one is the appreciation, the acknowledgement, and the celebration of the good, right? The good as a whole, being made Christian, being allowed to learn that she could be saved, which she would not have had if she had not been put in this terrible circumstance. So even though you can acknowledge that circumstances were bad, that circumstances were evil, you can still acknowledge the good that can come out of these circumstances, that you can celebrate the good that comes out of these circumstances. The other one, the other virtue that I want you to cling to here is her heart of rebellion. Remember, Christians, Negroes, black as Cain. Now you hear this laced with both that word Cain being brought back. It not only talks about a skin tone, or a pigment, but it's also talking about, it can be read as cane, as though like the sugar cane in which they were originally brought to be slaves to till the fields with, may be refined and join the angelic train. It's beautiful. She can recognize the good, her salvation, her ability to be taught the Western values that have built the greatest societies that history has ever known. And also be able to decry and rebel against this cocoon of slavery, this original sin for America. Next, we are going to be reading from a guy that some people might know, some people might not. He's known as the Black Bard of North Carolina, and being raised in North Carolina for most of my life, I am slightly partial to this next guy. His name is George Moses Horton. But before we move on to George, I want to talk to you about our own rebellion. We have moved off of Patreon and we are now on locals.com, forerunnerproductions.locals.com, where we are starting the culture revolution. We are rebuilding the institutions that are broken from the ground up. Hollywood, the music industry, the media, you name it, we are trying to rebuild it in a way that represents the very virtues, the very values that I am talking with you about today, that these people, these influential people, these amazing poets are talking about. You have a place in this because all the things that you value are also being destroyed and ripped out from under you. There are people that want to destroy the unity of this country. There are people that want to remove all of the great things that you like to consume, like Shakespeare, right? The Iliad, Homer. They want to take all of these things out of your schools. They want to take them out of your media. Don't let them. Don't let them. And the way that you keep them from doing that is you give us some of the money that you would be giving them instead, right? So you go over to forerunnerproductions.locals.com, you become a supporter, and you help us build the content that you want to consume. I cannot wait to see you there. Thank you so much for watching this video. It means a ton. We are having a great time, and we are having an amazing conversation over on Locals. You want to make sure you check it out. It is a true place that is dedicated to free speech, where the big tech companies seem to be clamping down every which way. And this is a place that you can go to escape from that. Okay. George Moses Horton, the Black Bard of North Carolina. So we're fast forwarding a little bit in history because Phillis Wheatley actually died in the 1780s, and we're going to be picking up with George Moses Horton when he was born in 1798. And as he grew up on this plantation, he taught himself how to read, and eventually his master relocated to an area that's just outside of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Anyone from North Carolina knows that Chapel Hill is the headquarters location for the University of North Carolina. In North Carolina, you know it is University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. It is the OG original UNC. One of the cool things that he was able to do by being so close to the university was, since he taught himself to read, he also taught himself poetry. And he was able to sell love poems to the students. And he was able to use this money to pay for his time over the years. One of the other really notable things about him, in the same way that Phillis Wheatley was the second woman, American woman, to ever publish a book and the first Black poet in America, George Moses Horton was the first published Black man in the South. So we're already beginning to see this ability to dig yourself out of a horrible situation. He was born into slavery and he died a free man. He was able to purchase his time away from his master by working hard, by having the opportunity to go and to educate himself and to do things. Hold on to that because it is so important. It is so important that you hold on to that from both Phillis Wheatley and from George Moses Horton. Now, from our Black Bard of North Carolina, I'm going to be reading you two poems. The first one is the first poem that he ever published, and it was published in Massachusetts with the help of one of the professor's wives and one of the novelists there in North Carolina. It is called On Liberty and Slavery. And then I'm going to read you another one, which is a poem that is dedicated to Abraham Lincoln. And I want you to focus on the growth in the ideals from one to the other. Let us read. Alas, and am I born for this, to wear this slavish chain? Deprived of all created bliss through hardship, toil, and pain. How long have I in bondage lain, and languished to be free? Alas, and must I still complain, deprived of liberty? O heaven, and is there no relief, this side of the silent grave, to soothe the pain, to quell the grief and anguish of a slave? Come, liberty, thou cheerful sound, roll through my ravished ears. Come, let my grief in joys be drowned, and drive away my fears. Say unto foul oppression, cease, ye tyrants, rage no more, and let the joyful trump of peace now bid the vassal roar. Soar on the pinions of that dove which long has cooed for thee, and breathed her notes from Afric's grove, the sound of liberty. O liberty, thou golden prize, so often sought by blood, we crave thy sacred sun to rise, the gift of nature's God. Bid slavery hide her haggard face and barbarism fly. I scorn to see the sad disgrace in which enslaved I lie. Dear liberty, upon thy breast I languish to respire, and like the swan into her nest, I like thy smiles retire. Though best asylum heavenly balm, into thy boughs I flee, and in thy shades the storm shall calm with songs of liberty. It's a very passionate poem, one of a man that is still in bondage, but has dreams of being free. And yet the barbarism that he calls out, he does not call out due to his skin tone, but he focuses on the heart of man. It is a heart problem that leads to racism. It is a heart problem that leads to all of these issues between the skin tones. It is not the skin tone that matters. That is a completely different narrative. If you try and tell someone on the far left nowadays that skin tone doesn't matter, but it is the contents of the heart, they will call you a racist because you do not choose to see race. Instead, you choose to judge people by their individual merits. And that leads us directly into this next poem. The poem that George Moses Horton, years later, dedicated to Abraham Lincoln, was due to the individuality and the pureness of who Lincoln was. In the movie Lincoln, there's actually a quote by Tommy Lee Jones where he hands the 13th Amendment to his wife, who is also his housekeeper, a black woman, and he says, the 13th Amendment, passed by corruption, aided and abetted by the purest man in America. That's who we're talking about here. But we're talking about him after he dies. Lincoln is Dead by George Moses Horton. He is gone, the strong base of the nation. The dove to his covert has fled. Ye heroes lament this privation, for Lincoln is dead. He is gone down, the sun of the Union, like Phoebus that sets in the west, the planet of peace and communion, forever has gone to his rest. He is gone down from a world of commotion, no equal succeeds in his stead. His wonders extend with the ocean, whose waves murmur, Lincoln is dead. He is gone and can ne'er be forgotten, whose great deeds eternal shall bloom. When gold, pearls, and diamonds are rotten, his deeds will break forth from the tomb. He is gone out of glory to glory, a smile with the tear may be shed. Oh, then let us tell the sweet story. Triumphantly, Lincoln is dead. First of all, George Moses Horton is one of my favorite poets because he sticks true to that rhyme and that pattern, that meter that we talk about whenever we talk about poetry. And his way to turn a phrase is incredible for someone that was self-taught in poetry. And it's no wonder that he was so influential in his time period. But the virtue that I want us to cling to comes from the line, great deeds shall bloom, eternal. It shows the focus on the individual deeds, on the merits of who Lincoln was. He chooses to focus on the individuals through both of these poems. And like I said before, individuals are the core. It is a problem of the heart, an individual problem that breeds racism, but it is also the individual that can choose not to be such a way, to have a pure heart, to make a choice. So the key focus, the key virtue from George Moses Horton is focus on the individual. And our last poet, I couldn't resist. I have to do this one. We are fast forwarding again through time to Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes was born in 1902. He died in 1968, I believe, and he got to live through the worst, though he was from the Bronx, he got to live through the worst periods of the Jim Crow South. And he got to labor and put his efforts toward the civil rights movement. He got to see the fruits of his labor. He's massively influential. Everyone who's ever been to grade school knows about Langston Hughes, so I won't spend a ton of time talking about that aspect of it. Instead, I actually want to read this poem because this poem is really long, and I want to dive into it with you. It is beautiful, it is powerful, and it is correct in some ways, and it is dead wrong in others, and we're going to get into it, and we are going to talk about how Phyllis Wheatley and George Moses Horton play into these ideals that Langston Hughes is talking about, and what is it that we can draw from Hughes. So, without further ado, we are going to get into the last of our 4 poems. This is Let America Be America Again. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America was never America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark, and who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient, endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways we satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry, yet today, despite the dream, beaten yet today, O pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker battered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream. In the old world, while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet this mighty daring stings, and every brick and stone and every furrow turned, that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lay. And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today? The millions shot down when we strike? The millions who have nothing for our pay? For all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung and all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me an ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we the people must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again. There's a lot to unpack in this. First of all, you have the massive steel industry of the industrial era in which Langston Hughes was born into and got to see the repercussions of. And you got to see him talk about the union workers and how the robber barons were building their empires and their wealth on the backs of immigrants who had a dream and nothing more. And yet, I offer a counterpoint because I have a book right back there on the shelf about Andrew Carnegie. It's his autobiography and the Gospel of Wealth. Andrew Carnegie was one of those people that was running the steel mills. He was one of those robber barons, those cigar-chomping, whiskey-drinking guys that were using these unions to build their empires, and yet Carnegie himself was one of these immigrants. He was one of the people that Langston Hughes was just talking about. The difference was the work ethic and opportunity. It was the fact that he had a chance, whether by fate or by God. And so I want to challenge everyone that would read Langston Hughes that there's our own individual lives that we have to live. But inside of those lives, I truly believe that every single person is given opportunity. It's a matter of whether you can recognize it and take advantage of it. Phyllis Wheatley was given opportunity, and she became the first Black poet in American history to ever be published, and the second woman in American history to ever be published. George Moses Horton, the first Black man to be published in the South, who lived through the Civil War. To say that there is no opportunity, I think Langston Hughes is dead wrong. But I think that there's things that we can do to expand and build on the opportunity. And this is the core of what I want to get to with Hughes's poem. This is the truth. This is the virtue that I think that Hughes really hits. And that is this desire to constantly be better. The Declaration of Independence is the golden core to our civilization. In the preamble, it outlines these God-given rights to man. It is this ideal on which we built a country. And we have failed consistently to live up to that core. But that core is protected by the American dream, which is the polish that, in my opinion, that goes on to the silver frame, as Ben Shapiro puts it, of the Constitution. The only way that we get better is not by rebuilding from the ground up. It is by making it better than it was yesterday. But we are on the cusp of going backward. We are in a volatile time period where if you don't invest in the things that matter, if you don't stand up for the values and the virtues that are important to this society, we will lose everything that Phyllis has accomplished, that George has accomplished, that Langston has accomplished. All of them, it will all be for naught if we don't stop going backwards and instead look backwards so that we can find a better way forward, a real understanding of history, an appreciation for real art and real values and real virtues. I'm Chad Garrett, and this is The Chad Garrett Show.